Sure.
Maria Luisa.
My reaction to your comment is that the EU mission communities are definitely involved in EOSC. Not all, but the question is on your shoulder, because you have to engage the ones that are not yet aware, at least, of open science, EOSC principles, platforms, services, and whatever. So I think that the reason why I'm saying yes is because, yes, I mean, definitely there are, you know, an involvement, and we are same principles at the basis, and therefore we have to act more on engagement. Also, we from EOSC, we have to work a lot on engaging the communities.
And I'm also a bit surprised about the success of the agreements for this. So, but there are also some disagreements. I don't know if you over there position there for a reason, or take.
Who disagrees in this audience?
Who disagrees in the audience?
A geospatial element that I'm standing here. It's not an opinion. I'm on that side. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I will say that all EU missions community are involved in EOSC, yes, but we need to realize that these are bi-directional interaction. We need to reach them, but then we need to bring them into the EOSC space. We need to understand them because we serve them. So we need to understand, for instance, in cancer, we need to understand what the data they are working with, but then we need to bring them to our domain to understand why it's important to annotate the data at the very beginning, because that might cost you a couple of minutes and not a couple of months, or even at some time later, you cannot annotate properly that data because you don't understand the context of that data, the metadata, for instance. So we need to have this contact collaboration in the two directions.
Great. Yeah, there is a comment over there.
Yeah, we have
Hello,
to.
Gary Saunders from EATRIS. I want to follow up on what Salva suggested about this bi-directional conversation. I think it's absolutely vital. I think all the presentations here present excellent infrastructure, the awareness of open data, but really if we think about the EU missions, the idea is for patient benefit or citizen benefit, to drive innovation. And that idea to bring in, say, industry collaboration, or to bring in regulatory guidance and see what the challenges are at the other side, I think would be really nice to see. And some translational activities would be nice to hear about there.
There is a raised hand.
Thank you. So I'm speaking, let's say, from the side of one of the research infrastructure, let's say, so big data that are part of the scenario, let's say. And I want to add a comment about my agreement in the disagreement, in the sense that it's really true that we need to have this bilateral let's say, exchange of use cases, ideas, etc. But it's really, let's say, I think that is not perfectly balanced. Let's say the effort that we need to put in order to reach the goal to have a more comprehensive participation by the communities, because we need to from research infrastructure side or project side, we need to let people understand which are the benefits of having such kind of technologies. It's really difficult that a community that is, let's say, closed, work with their data, with their algorithm, that at a certain point decide to join, let's say, the open data movement, or they see it often like something that it's more difficult to do. I mean, why I need to put additional effort to give my data, and I'm using my, because sometimes in the community is really the ownership of the data is present. So we need to, let's say, push, let's say, open their bubble and show them which are the benefits of having an open framework, an open data framework. So I agree with what you said, but let's say I agree more on saying that we need to push more.
Yeah, you're right, but the question
Thanks.
here was involvement. And involvement is something different than implementation or exploitation. We need involvement first, and then slowly to enlarge the community that are really implementing and exploiting the EOSC. And it is true, we need incentives for open science uptake. Yeah.
Okay, we have another statement for you. So, sorry. Oh, no, there is one.
Yeah. So thank you for these very interesting and engaging presentations. I would actually answer your question with a question because we didn't have a chance to actually ask questions about the presentations directly, but I think it's quite important for me. So I'm a social scientist, and most of the presentations today are not what we would squarely think are the kind of main research remits of the social sciences, although they could be. And I was wondering, for example, if in the cancer research data resources or in the COVID-19 one, you're also including, for example, numerous surveys and other types of data that are collected by social scientists about, for example, how individual patients and citizens in general are experiencing, for example, cancer or COVID-19. There's been a lot of research among the social sciences, for example, on the differential consequences, both in terms of economic, social, and health consequences for ethnic minorities and citizens of immigrant origin as compared to the majority populations. And I'm not really sure that there's big data hubs that are focusing, and perhaps I'm wrong. If you do incorporate systematically all of the data that are being produced in the social sciences, then I would agree that then these EU missions are really including all of the research communities. But if they're still being built up with a kind of very traditional view of who does research on cancer or who does research on COVID-19, then I think we do need to reconsider how much all of these initiatives are kind of really being inclusive and engaging the whole set of research communities. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, sorry. So from the COVID perspective, the social sciences data that we get in the platform is specifically from the CESTA catalog, for example. So everything that you see there from sort of like a COVID-19 perspective would be indexed and presented through there. So whether there's other catalogs and things like that out there, like you're saying with surveys and things like that, it would mean that we would have to engage more again. So yeah, I'd agree that maybe you're more on the middle as opposed to like a particular agree or disagree. So yeah, I agree with that, what you say.
So I will start saying thank you for the question. That is really interesting, and then brings back to, for instance, the use cases that we have in EOS for Cancer. We have 5 of them. The first one is about cancer registries and how we connect that particular cancer registry with other type of data that goes in the direction of socioeconomics, but also environmental, because we want to understand what are the factors that might be driven or might look at an explosion of the cancer cases. And then later on connected to, for instance, with the screening program. So if I see there is more cases, cancer cases in a particular area, then probably the policies that I need to develop is I need to do the screening programs probably earlier or more frequent to detect much earlier in the cancer cases. So there is a whole idea there. There are many data sources. So I like the idea of being challenged by the use cases. Like, have this question, how do I solve it? And then we start struggling sometimes how we break the bubble of life sciences and goes in the direction of other research infrastructure, other data sources. And from the social sciences, I will say CESTA is our reference. So probably there are other sources, but every time that I'm thinking on social sciences, I'm thinking on the CESTA colleagues.
And while we were still discussing, I see the audience already started replying to the second statement, so taking a position which was quite an unexpected one. So tools and services offered by EOSC are ready to be used to respond to emissions. The majority disagrees. Dick?
No, from our perspective, let's say, I would say I agree and not disagree. But of course, you always have to make a selection, because you can't say that all the tools and services in EOSC are ready, because that's a little bit with this kind of questioning. Eh? How do you see the relativity of the question? In the case of Blue Cloud, what we did is we were exploring and deploying, let's say, EOSC principles in the Blue community. So in fact, we didn't bring the marine community to EOSC, but we bring EOSC to the community. Why? Because the community is already active in many aspects. Let's say there's a lot of infrastructure, there's a lot of targets. We have not only serving EOSC as a directive, as an initiative, but also the Green Deal, but also, let's say, other targets, like we're working on EMUTnet, making very good products. We're working on Copernicus Marine, also making forecasting products. So we have, let's say, many services and targets. And that's why we say, let's bring the EOSC principles to our marine community and then serve as a thematic marine example, the blueprint, more or less, for the EOSC, how other thematics might follow the same principle. And in that sense, to focus a little bit on one of the services, let's say the federated data discovery and access, we have already in the Blue community, we have many what we call blue data infrastructures. So many are on the S3 calendar. So these are research infrastructures. They are bringing together data from specific types, let's say, with specific communities, research institutes, or let's say seagoing cruises, observation platforms. So you've seen a lot about marine in today, by the way, also with the example from Joachim. So you are well educated now about what the marine is doing already. But anyway, let's say to make it short, let's say what we see is we have a large variability of data. We have a lot of players, but we already have quite some mature research infrastructures. And what we said, let's make a federation on top of this and do it in a two-step approach, because there is not a common metadata format. Everybody has his own taste, but also it's, we call it use metadata. They need their own metadata, because they have quite different types of data. Genomics and physics, you can't put in one bucket. You need two buckets. But of course, you can still make an overarching, let's say, a common denominator. That's what we call the collection level. So we have a number of facets by which you can do a search on place, time, variable, who is involved, what is the project, etc. And then from there, you can drop down and you go to the second level, which is more specific for that individual data infrastructure. And that's what we did. And in the first round, Blue Cloud had a pilot. And in that case, we worked only with machine-to-machine interaction. So we worked with what we got. And that meant that we did a lot of, I call it plumbing, let's say engineering and plumbing. It means that you try to fit everything together, different pipes, but in the end, everything flows through the pipes. In the second round, we said, no, we want to make it much more fair. Not only fairness in content, what we talked so far, but also fairness in services. And that's quite something different. That means that we need better documentation about the web services, but we also want to streamline the web services, that they have let's say, more output, have more, so that the common denominator can be more rich, more metadata facets, and also that we have more commonality, let's say, in technologies that we are using for those web services. It doesn't mean that we all have to take the same technology, but at least, let's say, the principles. And this is something we are doing now in the Blue Cloud 226. And this experience that we're doing is very relevant, say, for instance, for the digital twin of the ocean, because they want to have access to a lot of data on demand from different of these infrastructures, which are pushing more and more data every day. And the other hand is also an example which is very relevant, let's say, for other thematics within EOSC, because federated data discovery and access is one of the, I would say, one of the core services that we need as part of the EOSC, the wider community, the wider field. And that's why I say, I fully agree that EOSC brought us some things as Blue Cloud, but like I said, these are examples. So don't generalize, that's not possible. It's the same effect with all these projects. These are projects, they are not lifetime achievements yet. These are projects still. But by having many of these projects, by bringing the knowledge together, by sharing, which is also one of the principles of EOSC, sharing the knowledge, sharing the approach, we are able to achieve what we really want to do. Thanks.
Salva.
Yes, so I agree with you. So there is a strong alignment. I consider to be able to be used by the EU missions, we need to think on a stack, where EOS probably provides the three initial levels, but then we need the top one, that is the domain knowledge. If we think in the health domain or the life sciences domain, probably we need something that is specific about data anonymization that might be specific to our domain that is not needed by others, or needs aspects on EOSC, ethical, legal, and societal impact issues that might be related to the use of personal data for a particular research that might be not necessary in others. So we need this extra layer to be able to answer the needs of the European the EU mission. So EOS provide the foundations, but we need definitely the domain knowledge that is being that people from research infrastructure, from project, and from other initiatives in particular areas bring.
Any other comments from the audience? If not, we go to the last statement, which so far asks the other question. So EOSC is well positioned to contribute to the EU missions. Do you agree or disagree? And there is quite an agreement in the room. Yeah, Salva,
I'm over there.
Yeah.
No, I'm over there as well. Yeah.
It is interesting that there is an agreement that EOSC is well positioned to contribute, but the community, well, not only is not ready, but is not. Do not yet trust, the services of the provided by the EOSC project. Yeah, not yet, not fully. And this is interesting. I think that we are even not halfway. We need to work a lot to involve more the researchers and the research communities in EOSC.
Yeah, I'm in agree, but not strongly agree. I think from what we've learned from the platform point of view, it takes a lot of different projects and components as well that come into it. And so, for example, the platform that I presented, by COVID is very much championing and pushing it forward, and is one of several projects that I didn't actually highlight properly in my talk. But yeah, so I think it's well positioned. From the platform point of view, it's quite the underlying elements are quite easily specifying towards those themes as well, going through towards the EU missions in most cases. So I'm not fully strong agree, but I am agree. Yeah.
Salva, you were up to say something?
Someone else has a comment. Otherwise, I will end up commenting all the questions.
So who disagrees?
Yeah. There are at least a couple of people who said I disagree. Maybe they're online. I don't know if there are any comments online.
Maybe another positive one instead of negative.
I can contribute if you want. Jonathan Tedds from Elixir. So there are lots of well-executed and technical components in development in the EOS projects, which in principle will be applicable, and they have been applied in science projects in EOS Future, for example. So there are, selected examples in selected communities, but obviously, because of exactly as Marie-Louisa said, at this stage of development, I don't believe you could argue that EOS is well positioned yet until we have been able to provide these components in a way that multiple communities can take them up and deploy and in their communities. So we're on that pathway, but I think we're some way from that. And indeed, we have to acknowledge there's sometimes a disconnect from mature services in the communities in different places which are close to the researchers. They use them all the time. Those communities may not align specifically with EOSC and would need work and investment to make them work and integrate with EOS services. So I think it's just my disagreement here is acknowledging that pathway.
Thank you for your comment. I must say that, EOSC is not only platforms and services, but also data. And for data, we are not yet there, yeah? because fair by design data is not really so popular in the community, even in the community very much linked to the research infrastructure that are more evolved community, more mature community. So, yeah, there is lots of things to do.
Maria Luisa, let me add, it's not just data, but it will include software, at
Software,
least.
yeah, software, yes.
As
yes,
part of
sure.
the process, and probably we need to think training, so creating those capacities. But we need those elements, because if we have the data, but we don't know how to use it, training, capacity building, or we don't have the right software or documented and version and so on and so forth, very unlikely we will be able to reproduce or to use that data.
Maybe also comment, because I realized some of the questions, how they are interpreted is slightly different. So maybe also one question is what we consider as EOSC, right? Is it only the association?
No,
or including also the research infrastructures and the thematic clouds? Because maybe, exactly, so maybe also when if the tools and the services of EOSC are ready for usages, if you only look at the EOSC association, then maybe question probably rather no, but if you take the whole cake with all infrastructures and thematic clouds, then it's getting bigger, right? So maybe this is also a point of view, what you include and what you not include, and here this is more clear, because I think the positioning is very clear. So even only EOSC as an association, but with the membership, which are big and important institutes, they are very well positioned, right, to contribute to the missions, absolutely. But maybe this kind of makes more clear the question before, why there was a disagreement, because if you look only at the associations, there are not many tools available, but from the research infrastructures and the thematic clouds, there are a lot of tools and services ready for usage.
Well, several infrastructure are part of the community of the EOSC Association, but EOSC Association and EOSC are not synonymous, please, not synonymous. But EOSC Association, as our president said today very clearly, is the voice of the community. The community is welcome to join, is welcome to contribute, but we are representing the community, we, EOSC Association, but the community is the community. Yeah, EOSC is the European Open Science Cloud, something, yeah. And several infrastructure are already part of EOSC Association, including Elixir, for instance, and others, yeah.
The last.
Can I say one more?
Yeah, and then we have one
Because that's the reason why in Blue Cloud we said bring EOSC to the community and not the community to EOSC. Because if you do that, then you look at the complete universe, and then of course you have a lot of, let's say, examples and benefits from the EOS thinking and the EOS services, which you can deploy in your own community and make them work. And that's the whole principle. So you have to engage, but of course it's not a one-day work. Let's say, EOSC is so far, I would say, a new kid on the block, only a couple of years we are working on this. So you can't expect, let's say, that to be completely engaged by all the communities, embraced by the community. It takes time. So in the beginning there were some pilots, people were very negative. After a while we see now good pilots, more and more, and we are now able to be ambassador for EOSC in our communities, and there's more and more use of this. But it takes time, of course, because this is quite fundamental what we're doing, and also open science is quite fundamental. So it's a step forward. And it takes time. I say we hope that the younger generation, let's say, embraces it earlier, because they are not used to, let's say, to the older generation, let's say, the rules and of the game at that time. And also they have to publish more, they have to be more known, they have to be more open, etc. And that's why I give it a chance, and that's what's happening now. We have now many projects in our domain where we bring in elements of EOSC inside the projects. Not only data management, because that's now fair data management is everywhere in all the projects, but also virtual research, open science, sharing of results, having experience with virtual research environments. We now bring them into the new proposals. And that's a way to generate, let's say, to attract people to start using them. And you know, once you use it, after a while you're convinced. But if you only hear hearsay from other people, yeah, that's of course is like blah, blah, blah. It's no good, it's no good. Yeah, you don't go there. That's why. So join us.
Yeah, thanks, Dick. One last comment, and then I think we need to close. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to comment that I think that one of the issues is that the question is too ambiguous, because precisely EOSC is too many things. Very many resources, very many tools, very many hubs, and multiple types of data sources. So some components of EOSC are already ready to be used to contribute to the emissions. But I think that the overarching challenge is precisely, on the one hand, adoption of EOSC, awareness of even the existence of EOSC, I would argue, is one of the main challenges. But also, it's not very clear to me that many of the tools and the resources and the kind of data sources that are being created around and through EOSC allow us right now to properly capture directives usage. So to give you an example, in your hub, how would you know whether a researcher has actually used a data set by using your platform rather than just finding it on Zenodo, for example? So how do you distinguish that? Because people will tend to actually cite the data set as such, but not necessarily the platform where they found the data set. I think that we need to think, no, exactly, we might not care about where they found it, but then that question cannot be answered. Is it EOSC that it's actually promoting through specific kind of initiatives or through other types of ways of finding data to the emissions? So I would say it's sort of problematic even to think about it in those terms, probably, and we need to reflect about it.
We wanted to have provocative statements to challenge you all, and apparently we succeeded in that. And with that, I thank Dick, Nadim, Carl, Salva, Maria Luisa, Patricia, Marike for organizing and chairing the session, and all of you for joining. You can enjoy your breakfast.